3 o'clock, but we're going to give everybody maybe just 1 or 2 more minutes. I'm just making sure you guys can hear me. Okay, good. We're having some extreme sound issues going on. It's been a while.
Okay, I just put a question in the chat. So if you guys could answer with what grade level you teach and something that you hope to learn from today's training. And I'm Kristen Johnson, and Haley Stamey is here leading us through Lumio training today.
Just to let you guys know too, we are gearing this towards elementary, but it could definitely be K-12, and also very beginner. So possibly someone, if you've used Lumio a lot, we're going to invite you to show us some things today. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And since there's just a small group of us today, feel free to unmute, ask questions. Everything today is very informal, and hopefully a time for you to get to try some things out and ask some questions and build as we go. So I can see Irene. Irene, do you care to tell us what school you're at and a little bit of your background as far as 4th grade?
Okay, I'm at Oakley and I'm at 4th grade dual language.
Okay, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I see Mary Ann says Title I. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mary Ann? What school you're at? Any particular grade you want to look at?
And I think Mary Ann is actually at Pisgah Elementary School and works in Title I there. So thanks, Mary Ann, for joining.
Nice. And Beverly, what is your background for today? Oh, we can't hear you. Yeah. It's okay if you want to pop it in the chat or see what's going on. I was having some major sound problems. No. We've lost you. Microphone is not working. WD Williams, self-contained K4. All right, good. So we've got a good array of different people here today. So we're excited to get started. So we're going to try something that makes it a little bit tricky. We're going to pretend that I'm the teacher in the front of the room today, and you guys are my students. So Lumio is a great product for exactly that. It will allow you, the teacher, to be sharing something that is also mirrored onto your students' devices. It allows for some collaboration. We can put some fun games and really do a lot of different things with it. So I think that's going to be the easiest way to just kind of see a little bit more about Lumio. I'm going to have you join my class, and Kristen is also going to be joining my class. So if you're having I know between Zoom screen and another tab with Google Chrome, it can get a little bit hairy sometimes. So I'm going to drop my Zoom down and attempt to try this out with you guys. And that is not what I had. Oh, here we go. All right. So as a student today, you are going to go to hellosmart.com in another tab. While you're getting there, I'm going to give you my code. To join my class. We could put that link in there, but I think what I'm going to do here at hellosmart.com, right here at the top, maybe I can make it bigger, 749086. And you can join today as a guest. It does get tricky going between a student account and a teacher account, but if you join as a guest today when it asks, and you can just type in your name in the comments, hellosmart.com, and the code is 479086. I can see I have one student connected. We'll give everybody a moment. Let us know if you're having issues or questions. Using this with 3rd and 4th graders on the devices, they can just go to the hellosmart.com and enter your code. When it comes to iPads, We would possibly want them to sign in. Takes a couple extra steps, but we would be happy to work with you guys on getting that set up. Be a great job for your VLC. 3. So it sounds like we're mostly getting in. 4. I think that's everybody. So I'm going to go ahead and just try to get an idea of what Lumio will do. So as the teacher at the front of the room, I took a Wit and Wisdom module PowerPoint, and Lumio just allowed me just to pop this right in. So I did not have to create this. It can take PowerPoints or anything that you have previously made. So if you have even old Smartboard lessons, those can be pulled into Lumio in order to make those interactive. So I think of it a lot of times kind of like Pear Deck in a sense, if you've used Pear Deck before. Yeah. Are you able to be in? Okay. So if we were doing this lesson with the class, you can see on this board, what is it asking you to do right now?
So we are doing a shout it out, and it's asking for you to enter your response.
So at this point, you know, if I had this built into a lesson, you're entering your response. Well, hopefully I would have added some conversation to there. What do you already know about the stars and space, and thinking about tying this back to a Wit and Wisdom lesson? If you guys don't care, just to go ahead and enter something. I know we're not truly doing this with stars and space, but if you want to enter something, I want to show you what happens on the teacher side. What do you already know about stars and space exploration? Oh, there's one. Outer space is exciting to learn about. There's 9 different planets. Stars make constellations. So using this on the smartboard at the front of my room, I'm able to see all of my students' responses. I can move them around and I can start to group them. So if this is about stars and this one's about stars, we can start to put those connections together in a similar spot. We could also sort, if we were doing something else, we could sort these different shouted out responses, right? So this is just one of the few things that Lumio can add into your smart lessons. We can add that shouted out response. Let's keep going. So this is just the slides. This is a workspace. So one of the things that we could do within Lumio is we can decide if we want our kids working together, we can say, oh, how many teams do I want? I might just want 2 teams today. And you can see at the very front of the board, I'm able to then group my students. So if I knew that Beverly and Kristen did not work well together, I could put Kristen up and put her in the other group. But they're going to get a common workspace to work on something together. So I know, especially with COVID right now, a lot of times getting the kids together, touching face to face close is hard, but this would allow the kids to have the same workspace. So let me just show you guys that. And if you're just joining us, we went to hellosmart.com and let me find that join code is at the top. 479086, and we're just kind of experiencing what a Lumio lesson could possibly look like in your classroom. hellosmart.com 479086, and we can pop that in the chat if we need to.
Yep, and we've got that in the chat bar, so
Awesome.
if you need it, it's right there.
Nice. So one of these pre-built activities is giving everyone a workspace. So let's look at what that might look like. If you guys want to do something on that workspace, you can see some of those tools that you get. I'll go in here with Bev since she's by herself. Over at the side, you should have some pins that you could mark up with. So if you guys, as the teacher, I can come in and write on your workspace, and I can see whatever you guys are working on as well. If team 1 is doing okay, and I want to go check in on team 2, you can see that team 2 chose this person that they're going to be looking at as well. So if this was a map, we could have kids going in and pinpointing or circling certain areas. I'm seeing this live, and then the teacher's able to give that live feedback as well within that Lumio lesson. Thoughts, questions? Like, not like, useful, maybe? So let's just look at a couple more ideas within this Lumio lesson. All right, this would be did I skip it or did I hand it out? I went so fast. We can also create handouts. So if you would go ahead and act like you're going to start that activity. Look at Kristen's here. If there was something that I wanted individual students to do, they've got a pen, they've got a text, they could be answering this question. And as the teacher, I can go and give feedback live while they're working. And then I could scroll through the different students I have to see exactly what they're working on as well. Hey, we're getting some more friends in here today. So it allows not only the group work, but it can allow for individual students to work on a SMART lesson. And pop in at any time if anybody has anything. We've had a couple more come in. Looks like they're getting into our lesson. Going on through my slides. We've talked about notice and wonder, and I know I have one built in soon, a shouted out activity. This time you can see that I have notice on one side and wonder. And as the student, you're able to send in or share out. This is another kind of shouted out activity. What do you notice? And I know that we're talking about space today. I know that we're not taking the time to look into that wit and wisdom lesson, but throw a couple things up. What are some things you notice about space? Or notice about, in this case, it was a piece of art. What are some things you wonder? And if you guys just want to throw up some words, we can look at from the teacher side again. Lumio has a lightning bug logo. I like it. Something we notice. And then once again, if someone had a notice in the wonder or they had it in the wrong spot, as the teacher, I can take what they're doing and move it around wherever it may need to be. You can see student initials are here as well. So if you're wanting to see who said what, you're going to have to look at those initials. You can click on them to make them bigger. And then once again, we can click and sort those activities. We'll pause for a second. Any questions so far into this lesson?
Yes, I'm sorry, I arrived a little.
It's okay.
So I wonder if the students do this from their devices.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and you projected
Mm-hmm.
a smart board so they can, okay.
Yeah, so it's a great way.
Different way to do the notices and wonders.
It is. And thinking about, your students, it might be a little bit hard for kindergarten just because there's a lot of typing and more response. But at the same time, there is the option for some drawing tools and some other activities. So when we get time to explore in a minute, we'll look at that. What grade are you in?
Second grade.
Second grade. So they're on the iPads. This would work on the iPads. Logging them in the first time would be the hardest part of it. But then once they're logged in and they have their emails in, anytime you want to go and do another Lumio lesson, they stay logged in and you just have to start it again. So I can still see some of the lessons that others have shared with me as well. So yes, I feel like second grade would be very capable of handling some of these lessons.
Is it in the catalog?
It's all online. So in just a minute, I'm going to stop and then I'm going to let you guys look at how we built this and then give you some time to explore as well, because it's so easy to build.
My question is, sorry, if that is in the catalog of the student's iPad.
It's a website. So just like we had you guys go to a website, it doesn't need an app or it doesn't need software to run because it lives in the cloud. It used to be called Smart Learning Online, and they've changed the name to Lumio. So everything's online. We don't have to worry about downloading apps or, any of those types of things. All right, let's see what workspace I did here. I can choose, I like this piece. So I can choose if I want my kids working together, once again, with the idea of COVID and having to stay 6 feet apart or not 6 feet apart. I can put my kids on teams. And then you can see how I can move those teams around if I needed to choose or move someone away from someone else, because we all always have that fun issue. And then each team then has a workspace to work in. So if we were working on a STEM plan, they could be drawing and working on that together. If they were circling all the verbs in a reading passage, they would have the ability to do that together. I can flip onto my different teams. Come on, teams, write something, type something. Don't be scared. I know we don't know anything about the lesson that it's teaching, but you do have the ability to play here. We will not record your thinking. Do you see the tools on the side as far as the marker or the typing? You can even add pictures on the side. Are you able to do it? Did I do it right? Okay. And I know we'll keep going. I think this may be all of the pieces I added into this lesson. Oh, there's also a lot of pre-built templates in here. So you could say, do you agree or disagree that Lumio could be used in your classroom? And let's try it. Let's see, what do you think? Could you use Lumio with your students? So we can see a little bit of progress here. I can see the live results. 2 people think they could use it. Yeah. But of course, you know, those questions could be based on whatever content you're teaching at the time. More handouts. We could have you circle different parts. We could have you underline different pieces. Just depends on what we wanted you to look at. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and end this session. Not the session of Zoom, but the session that we're looking at today, and just kind of get some thoughts. Is there anyone that has an idea or any kind of curriculum coming up? They're thinking, hey, I think I'd really like to do this. And we can try to build it live here. I also want to say that you went to Hello Smart as the student, but we're going to go to Smart Tech to enter as the teacher. And as the teacher, you can sign in with your BCS email, and it should automatically make you account. So I'm gonna do that for a second. I'm gonna put the code for you to sign in as a teacher into the chat. Let me end this lesson really quick. Is that all it is though? Smart Tech. Sweet.smarttech.com, and mine is frozen. Sweet.smarttech.com, and I'm gonna let you guys get logged in, and then I'm gonna show you a couple more things. Let's see if I can paste that in for you. You might have already got it in there. You did, you beat me. Will that link work? See if will that let you get logged in? Okay. So if you guys want to go ahead, and I want to make sure that everybody can get in with their BCS email. And then if you kind of want to scoot that over to the side for a few minutes, I want to show you what we did to pull that Wit and Wisdom lesson in. Those are those projected slides that's on the Inside Clever, Inside Wit and Wisdom. But at the same time, you can start with nothing. You could start with a blank piece of paper and just a whiteboard out activities. And watch for a few minutes if that's what works for you. We really want this to be a time that walk into sweet.smarttech.com. You're going to see this is kind of the dashboard that it lands on. I can decide, you know, do I want to take an old PowerPoint and send that out to my students? Do I want to start with just an activity? And you have a lot of options. There's even some things already built that you can use under this Explore resources, and we'll give you some time to explore that. But let's just start with a blank slate today. Why not? This is the very first thing I'm thinking about. So if I have a PowerPoint or a PDF or a Smart Notebook file, I can import that here. And that's exactly what I did with that Wit and Wisdom lesson. If I know there's a YouTube video that I want my kids to watch, I can start with a YouTube video and build some questions in with that. A new page. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I missed the question. Is that a question? Let me know if it's a question and we'll stop and get it for you. But it could just be starting with just a new blank page. And you're going to have the kids collaborate on planning out a STEM project or solving a math problem. Shout It Out was the activity where they were able to throw up the little comments and the teacher can sort them at the front of the room. We did not do a response, but a response will allow you to put in like ABCD questions. And almost like a quiz, but it's a live quiz where the feedback and everything's at the front of the room, or one of these game-based little monster activities, and there's some templates there. These are also great. So a few minutes ago, we did the I agree or I disagree. That was one of these questioning and reflection resources. So do you guys want to start? Let's start one, and then we'll show how we can add all of these pieces inside anything. So I'm going to start my lesson with the activating prior knowledge templates. So we all know about a KWL. This is a KWLQ, where we could have the kids shout out their thinking. So we know that's a great way to get kids thinking about, what they already know about a topic. Is there a topic that anybody wants to explore before I just make a random one about life cycles for second grade? Is there anything coming up in science or social studies or Wit and Wisdom that anybody's interested in building with today? Or do you want me just to go with it? Pop it in the chat if there is, or unmute and tell us. All right, life cycles it is. That's my go-to. So I'm going to start my Lumio lesson today with a KWLQ chart. I can edit this, so I could say this KWLQ about life cycles. All right, and I could space this out and make it a little bit better. If that's the very first thing I want my kids to do, that's going to be where they're going to be able to go in and type what they already know and what they want to know about life cycles. You can see the big plus at the bottom. I then have the option to add more things. So if the next slide that I wanted them working on is maybe just a page, you can see there's all kinds of templates in here. I could build fresh and just say, I want this piece of notebook paper. And I just need one little piece of paper, but you can see there's some great handwriting sheets in here. So if you were working on foundations, you could use some of those dotted papers. You've got some graph paper in here you can choose from. Depending on your subject, you've got lots of options. So I'm just going to do some regular notebook paper for this. And on the second slide, that may just be where I want to be able to write on my smartboard at the front of the room. You can see there's options to add images. So if I know, let's see, an online image of a butterfly, because we all know they have a life cycle. I can drag in some images. This is in my lesson, so I could keep talking about how the life cycle of a butterfly and yada, 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 right? On the next slide, I may want that to be a YouTube video that I show the class. When I click on YouTube and I search on butterfly, I can, if I also had the link all ready to go, I could share that. I was pretty brave just pulling up YouTube and searching live. Definitely not something you would want to have this pre-built before you assign this out to kids. It's not something you would necessarily want to build on the fly. A few minutes ago, we used some of those ready-made activities and we used some of the question and reflection, but let's take a look at some manipulatives. Oops, let me keep it open. I think I chose one and didn't realize it. So inside the manipulatives, there's some great things for math. And I know we're looking at life cycles today, But you can see we've got clocks and math expressions. There's for my music teacher, we've got some musical notes and pattern blocks and number lines. We could pull those in and make those handouts that the kids could actually use live with us. So just for giggles, I'm gonna go ahead and do a sorting shape activity. Looks like I have a math activity because we know all of these things goes great with life cycles. And let's see, what else might we add? We might do a shout it out. And I know this is way too many things for one lesson, but I just want to make sure you can kind of see all the different options for what we could build into that lesson. Shout it out is where you can throw those answers up. So you can just have random answers, or you can create categories. I have seen where teachers, you know, category 1 is like the long A sound. Oops. And kids could throw up 2 words they know that have the long A. And the other category could be the short A sound. Wow, I have no idea what just happened. My computer's having a moment. Any questions while we wait?
Were you guys able to get logged into your teacher accounts for Lumio? Are you seeing some useful things? If you just kind of come out and tell us what you think so far.
Yeah, Marian says thumbs up. So
we have a question from Irene. She says, can you change the language?
That is a great question. When you say change the language, you have the option to pull in whatever resource you're working on. So for example, I'm assuming dual language classroom or ESL classroom. If you had, let me show you this part. If you had a few minutes ago, like we pulled in that blank page, you could type whatever you want on that document. For example, up here, I have, or if you had a PowerPoint already made with the vocabulary words of life cycles in Spanish, you could pull that PowerPoint in as well. So I'm gonna, so yes, I feel like I can say yes, you can change the language because you would build it with whatever content you have. So, and you might know better. Does that answer what you're asking? So I can say, hola.
Okay.
Does that answer what you wanted to? Now, the thing about the shout it out, I'm sitting here thinking about that one as well. You could, in the categories, make category 1 be, you know, en la escuela, and category 2 would be in another place. So you could make those categories work for you with the Spanish words and vocabulary. I do want to show you guys too, a few minutes ago, we talked about pulling in an already created PowerPoint. So I know some people have, especially with virtual last year, they may have some slides and things that they've used in the past. I'm gonna finish editing this one. I'm gonna go ahead and pretend I'm starting another lesson. You can go and pull in off of your computer any of those that you may have previously made. So like this PowerPoint here is the one we looked at earlier. I downloaded it from Wisdom. I pulled it in, it's going to upload it, and then I can go through and delete stuff. I know with those Wit and Wisdom slides, there's several of the slides that aren't relevant for students to necessarily get to see, like the material lists and things. So we could go through and delete, and I want to show you how we can make some of those pages handouts, and this must be a big file. So while this is loading, any other questions that you guys have, let us know. Yeah. So you can see this is every slide of that PowerPoint. It's, you know, 30 some slides long. When I add it, I might say that, yeah, this slide right here was not really relevant for kids to be able to use, or they just don't need to see it, and I can delete that slide. At the same time, when it gets down into some of the work that the students are doing, if this is something that you want students to think about in groups, we want to make that a handout, or we want to, up here at the top, we have this little magic wand. Is that the fancy name? Magic wand is what we're calling it. Yeah. So we have this little magic wand, and we then have the ability to decide do we want this to be an individual piece of paper for our kids to work on at their desk alone? Or do we want this to be that collaborative activity? You know, you definitely have to talk about a little bit of norms and how students are to collaborate together, because as we all know, when they all get on one document, things can get a little crazy. But you could make something an individual handout where they could actually go in and type or go in and draw. You know, if we're thinking about our younger kids, they could use those marker tools to circle the sight words or go over and put little hearts over their heart words or whatever we need them to do. Going on down through here, just like we were looking at when we were building a Lumio file from the ground up, like this is one that stuck out to me. Okay, notice and wonder. I could make that a handout and the students could actually write on that T-chart, or I could put in a shouted out activity and delete this slide. So that was a place where I found it naturally to kind of work with that shouted out activity. And I have that, I want to show you that again in case you missed it. That plus within that PowerPoint, I can add any of those other pieces. So I can build from the bottom up, or I can add any of these sections into what I already have. So there's a lot of flexibility with what you want that to do. So that shouted out activity, instead of them writing, I might want them to say, what do you notice? And other category would be, what do you wonder? And then I can decide how many times I want them to be able to comment. So I might give them 11 comments, which that might be way too many, or I can knock it back down to 2 and say, I want you to tell me one thing you notice and one thing you wonder. And then we could sort that in the front of the room as a class discussion.
And wait right there. There's also a spot that you can hide the students' names. So if you wanted to make it anonymous, that's a great way to level the playing field for everybody.
Yeah, and you know your class. So definitely would work, especially if you're wanting to get what they truly know or what they truly wonder. Taking those names off could help. But also knowing if you have the little stinker in there that's going to write something crazy on the board, we wouldn't be able to necessarily tell who it was. So we have the ability to add with the big plus and pull anything into an already made PowerPoint. One of the ones that we have not looked at was Graphic Organizer. So you can see all of these great graphic organizers. If we wanted to do some vocabulary and pull in a Frayer model, the thing I want you to remember, because I have messed up twice doing this, I put this Frayer model in, but as of this moment, if I were to start sharing this lesson and working on this lesson with my kids, they would not have the ability to write on this until I make it a handout. So this would work if I was just wanting to share up front and write on my smartboard. I could have all those tools I needed, but if I'm wanting my kids to do anything, I have to make it either an individual handout or a collaborative workspace for them to work on. Just wanted to make sure I said that. Let's say you're in the middle of your lesson. So I'm going to go pick up that lesson that we just built together. This is the one you guys did with me a few minutes ago. This is the one we were just looking at. But let's say we're going to start this lesson today. I'll go back to Smart Suite, smart.smarttech, Smart Suite, the link that we had you go to. And when I hit start lesson, there's 4 kids still in here because you guys did not sign out, and that's totally fine. But you can see, let's say on slide 3 here, you're like, I really wanted them to write on this page, or I really need them, they're looking a little bit bored. I need them to circle all of the vocabulary words that we're talking about. You can't make it a handout on the fly, but what you can do, and if you're still on here, you're going to see what I'm doing. I can hit edit lesson, go over here to my little magic wand, make it a handout, finish editing, and it takes me back into that presentation mode. So if I were to forget, I could quickly go out, make that a handout, and come back in. Good thing to know, because I promise that's one thing that I keep forgetting to hit the magic wand. So I wanted to make sure to show you guys that magic wand today. Okay. what we're going to do now is I'm going to cut my camera off. We're going to let you guys explore, let's say 10 minutes. We're here for questions. So if you need to pop something in the chat or ask us questions, feel free to unmute. But I just want you to get to play with some of those tools. If you're still if you're still signed in Mind, that's fine. Just make sure you go to that suite.smarttech.com, log in as the teacher, and we're going to give you guys kind of 10 minutes to just explore the product and ask all the questions. This is the hardest part for me.
I just left for a moment, so I have a question. I don't know if maybe you have already mentioned that. And can I set like a time for an activity? Like, okay, so you're gonna work in your iPads, and if someone needs my help, so I can go to your iPad and give you a hand, and maybe while the others complete the chart, and you have 5 minutes, and after 5 minutes, the activity is gone or blocked or something like that.
So you drive the lesson. So they will be on that activity until you hit next slide. If you hit next slide, everybody goes, but there's a part 2 to that. So the second part to that is you can put it in a student paced mode where they can go through the whole slide deck on their own. And that's a link that we can send them. So very similar to like Pear Deck, when we go to the next slide, the students will also go. So the timer would be, I'm turning the slide in 5 minutes. But if you wanted them to be in student paced mode, they could go through those slides on their own.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I'll make sure to show that. Actually, let me just show you right now why it's fresh on the brain.
Thank you.
Yeah. So up in my 3 lines, I got to remember, I think it's share. Here is where you could go give them that access link. So if you were wanting to share it with a teacher down the hall because they want to also use the Lumio lesson, you have a teacher share link, and then you have a student link where they could go through each of these slides and work on their own. So it wouldn't be collaborative with other kids, but individual for them. I'm assuming when I click this, there it is. There's the link where you could explore in that student paced. Okay. Take a few more minutes and we're here if you need. So we're going to go ahead and I know there's 4 minutes left. Wait time is hard. I told y'all wait time is hard for me. So I'm going to go ahead in the comments and paste a Google Doc. That Google Doc has just got, it's not got a lot on it yet, but I want to call it a working on the title page. How do I bring up the ability to type? Marianne, we'll look at that in just a second. On that Google Doc though, it's just where we're adding some notes. And at the very bottom of the Google Doc is the My Learning Plan link for your hour credit today. So if you don't have questions, we don't want you having to hang out for, just for the fun of it. So you're welcome to go on. We're going to be on until 4 answering any questions that you guys have. But this is going to be the only time you get that My Learning Plan link. So we want you to make sure you get that document. The very bottom of that document is the My Learning Plan link. And we'll have to erase that tomorrow. At the same time on that document, there's a ton of resources. So if you're still hanging out, I'll show you a couple of these things really quick. Oh, sorry, that's my babies. Give me a moment. I'm having technical difficulties. Oh my word. All right. So on the bottom of the document, there's our My Learning Plan. Make sure you sign up today before you head out. Smart is doing some webinars coming up. There's 3 or 4 listed on there. They're on here for you to use. Wendy, one of our colleagues, has created some Wit and Wisdom vocabulary assessments. I think these link all the Wit and Wisdom vocabulary for all the modules. K and 1 is complete. She's still working on 2, and her plan is to do all of those. So they're Lumio lessons built around the vocabulary that Wit and Wisdom assesses. The Smart Learning link is at the very top for you to go back and access. And then let's take a look at Mary Ann's question. Let me go back and read it one more time. Were you reading that question, Kristen? I've lost my Zoom.
I'm looking for her question.
Something about the title page.
It might have come just to you.
Okay, sorry. So let me look at that. So my friend Mary Ann, I'm gonna stop share so I can get back to my chat. How do I bring up the ability to type on the title page? What I think she's asking, how to type on the title page. So let's say if this was the very beginning of our slides that we're going to be using, if we were wanting to type information on here, we have the typing tool at the top right here, the little A. In theory, once we click the A and click over into the page or the paper or the slide, we have the ability to type on it. And I know that was bad color and bad spacing there. So we have that ability to type on any of those pages. And just remember, if we want our kids to be able to type or write or draw, we've got to touch the magic wand. Let's see if there's any other questions. Oh yeah, on your phone could be a little bit tricky. So Marian, whatever school you are at, feel free also, blended learning coaches or out and about. And we would be happy to sit down and work with you. I'm on another title page. If the teacher did not give the little magic wand and make that a handout, you won't have the ability to type. So depending on what screen you're on, that may or may not work for you. We appreciate you guys coming. We'll be on about 10 more minutes. Feel free to head out if you need to head out, or at the same time, stick. Yeah, thanks, Beverly. It is awesome once you get your head wrapped around the teacher view and the student view. And if you have one of the fancy new display boards, it really takes Lumio up to another notch. Kristen's got one there behind her, and you can you can do a little bit more of on the fly work with the new display boards in Lumio as well. So we were talking about the My Learning Plan link. If you're having trouble getting that link to open, if you open up another tab and sign into My Learning Plan and then click on the link, we've had a little bit of success with that. If there is an issue with that. All right, we appreciate you guys being here. Please reach out with any additional questions, and we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much.